Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. And with 100 Thieves officially eliminated from the VCT playoffs yesterday, there's been lots of talk about exactly why that is the case. Vanity expressing his reasons, and Hiko as well talking about the problems they had with forming their roster before this season even began. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you are new as always. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks very much indeed for doing that. Loads of new support the last few days. Firstly, this from George Getters. Sonics, of course, after failing to qualify for the North American VCT, they've benched both EN and Crunchy. They're obviously making some changes. Other teams, I'm sure, will also have to make some moves. 100 Thieves definitely are at the top of people's minds right now. They failed to qualify officially for the VCT when they lost their match against xCED this past weekend. The loss of 1-2 in that series. We discussed it yesterday, and that means they won't be there at the playoffs. They won't be there at the Masters, and they're going to have a difficult time figuring out what their roster is going to be going forward. Lots of talk from many players and analysts and all this type of stuff as to why they were falling short, why this team is hasn't really worked out. Of course, look, they didn't really give this team that much time to succeed. They brought in Eccles and babybay. It didn't work out in their first two games, but they played good teams their first two games. Right? They played Cloud9. They played up against the Guards, who are arguably a number one, number two in the entirety of the North American region right now. Version 1 Optica, of course, there and thereabouts, but still, the 13-0 by the Guards seemed to be kind of the turning point for when they decided to get rid of Eccles and babybay, even though Nadeshot says that it wasn't, and it was just kind of a team culture thing. They bring in Bang and JC Sani as kind of short-term replacements on loan at this type of stuff. We imagine they might not say that, even though some people say the Bang has already proved to be maybe the best player on 100 Thieves. But I mean, still, there's a discussion as to what they want to do with these players going forward, or if they do a complete rebuild when they try and go to qualify for next time around to get into the VCT and do this all over again. But the fact of the matter is, they made their change. They played the two games against Luminosity, of course, and up against xCED, which, of course, two teams that are theoretically more beatable than the first two teams they played, lose both of these series regardless. Now, Vanity has some thoughts really on how they were misplaying. I think it's time NA collectively stops playing Valorant. There was, well, this clip that comes out. We saw one of the clips yesterday when Nadeshot wasn't particularly happy when they got ninja defused right in the final round. But as Vanity says, watching teams have their star player on a Marshall when you have 4 Vandals on the other makes me want to pull my eyes out. So, well, basically, Asuna, one of the best riflers in the game, was on a Marshall. The rest of the boys had a Vandal, and Vanity was like, what are they even playing at, right? It kind of reminds me in a way of when, Na'Vi, when Simple, when Zeus was on the team, when Zeus was IGLing Na'Vi way back in the day, Simple used to, like, a lot of the times end up with a deagle or something, and Zeus would be sitting there with the rifle, and people would be like, what's going on here? Why isn't Zeus just giving Simple the rifle? I think sometimes Simple was actually saying, like, look, I'll use a deagle, you have the rifle or whatever. But surely, like, you want to give your star player the best possible weaponry.
I don't know. If I'm Ethan or Hiko. Hey, Peter, give me the Marshall. I'll give you a gun. Nah, let's have our best player without a rifle on the first gun round.
50 credits. So much value found by some of these jet players, even if it is those eco rounds, especially on a map here.
Just so dumb, man. It's literally so stupid.
Dephh is a fan of the reinvestments into these second rounds. It doesn't actually pose too much risk. In the
so dumb.
Right? If anything, you'll just have one player.
Maybe JC standing now? Like, hey, Peter, come take my gun. I'm 1 HP.
I think 100 Thieves was actually one of the first teams.
No. Why would I do that? I'm so sick of watching this dog region, dude.
Yeah, and Asuna,
so annoying.
I mean, sitting in Cerebro, some crazy stuff, expecting the jump peak.
So dumb. Nobody cares about winning.
We're not as much as showing, and he still finds the tag onto BCJ. So all things considered, sure, JC Sani worse for where you saw 7.
So do you think Vanity's on the right lines here? I thought it was kind of funny really from FE's from version 1. Browsing Reddit saw this Vanity clip right that we just looked at, and kind of reminds me of the time when Vanity maybe was a bit of a hypocrite back in the day. But yeah, good old days, mate. Did you learn something useful though? So who knows? I'm sure this kind of in-game tactics type stuff definitely does have its place in why 100 Thieves haven't been performing. But Sinatraa was making his thoughts clear not long ago that they just don't really have any star players. He said it when they got rid of Eccles and babybay, that like they still don't really have any players that are there just going to take over a game. They don't have enough of those players that the top teams have. Like we've seen, for example, the Guard, they've brought in TrenZ, you've got Net over there, Valid, like these type of players that just take over games. And 100 Thieves don't really seem to have anyone like that right now. And Hiko was talking about some of the issues that they had when they were trying to form their roster before the season began. Effectively, they found themselves in a tough spot. Because after they kicked Steel, of course, Nitro was on their team, then he was out of there. He went back to Counter-Strike Global Offensive to play for Team Liquid. And then I believe the player he's kind of discussing here is, well, at least one of them was Brezzy, like, or Breezy, however you want to pronounce it. it, who's a player for Evil Geniuses, who was, I believe, going to come over to play with Ethan, who they used to play on the NRG team back in the day in CS as well. And I think he was going to make the switch to Valorant, but for whatever reason that didn't happen anymore. He's still playing Counter-Strike for now, and that put him in a tough spot where they wanted to get Xander and Cryo, who of course ended up joining pretty good teams in version 1 and XZ respectively, but that just didn't happen because there were some other moves they were waiting on, and therefore it kind of affected their entire lineup construction.
We were like considering Cryo and Xander, but then we were also considering some other people, and timing, like we were like, I can't really say who exactly, but we thought that this person or this duo would be joining us, and we had to just delay until the point where it was too late, where Cryo already got signed as XZ, and then Xander went to V1, obviously, right? So yeah, I mean, it sucks that a lot of things happened the way they did.
So I wonder what will happen to 100 Thieves going forward. As we discussed yesterday, will Hiko still have a spot? Because I feel like to me that the core of that team probably isn't going to work out. And Sinatra's made it clear as well, he doesn't think there's enough talent in that core, to be honest, to make this work. But you know, Asuna is still a solid player, can't necessarily do it all on his own. This weekend then are the final set of matches. 100 Thieves will play up against Evil Geniuses, but it doesn't matter how well they do or how badly they do, they're still not getting through to playoffs based on their performance last weekend. Now, well, this also from Victor on the Optic side. Playing our deciding match, of course, next weekend's matches are going to be played on the new patch. He reckons it's a Mickey Mouse patch because of course many changes to to the entirety of the controller meta effectively, and also Icebox changing, all that type of stuff. It's coming through very soon indeed. Probably better to play on this now than play the playoffs only on it, but still, some people are happy about it, some people aren't happy about it. TenZ seems to be happy about it. He's been called like a kind of a jet one trick relatively recently, and as he describes, I'm on the biggest Yoru copium right now. Can't wait to play this character in matches. Seemingly, he's been using it an awful lot in scrims and in practice and stuff and in ranked play, and well, he seems to be having a good time using Yoru, so apparently he's going to bring this out in matches. This is pretty exciting. If it does work out, I guess we shall see. Also, a lot of talk around about Sentinels in general, how this new meta may well favour them compared to recent ones, like as dapr says, we've been biding our time for another rush meta, everyone clowned us for not changing our ways, and Sick kind of described this on an article over at esports GG. I think this Valorant meta changing is going to benefit us, as he describes right here. I do think the meta change is going to be a benefit away from the heavy utility meta. We'll have to take the next week to figure it out, see what roles we're going to play. It'll be a big mix-up for sure. So yes, I think the Sentinels guys, North American teams, I think in general, are probably quite excited about this meta change, away from the kind of heavy util, more into kind of, playing more aggressively, taking your aim duels. Generally seems to favour a more North American style. We'll also see how Sentinels fare if TenZ is on the Yoru a lot of the time, rather than the Jet, and whether that actually works out for them. Of course, I believe they're already qualified through to the playoffs now, so I guess they can use this weekend to just see how things go and test things out ahead of their matches at the playoffs. This also from some Roast I thought was quite interesting, because I think most teams might be overreacting to some degree about how bad Astra is right now. Of course, Astra got nerfed significantly, but still, I think the intention really was with these changes from Riot that to try and make sure the controllers are actually balanced. So Brimstone's viable, so Astra is still viable. Viper, it seems, is way down the pecking order right now as well, and of course, Omen got so much better. But I mean, still, unpopular opinion, Astra is still better on 3 maps. Just have to be played differently, more like a Sentinel than a support controller across the map, with less help for the teammates. So quite interesting, right? He reckons that Astra is still definitely viable, may well be used on some maps, just nowhere near as good as she was. We'll maybe see that over the coming weeks as teams figure out, okay, Astra, yes, she got nerfed. Is she as bad as some people say? The teams will figure this out in due course, I am sure. This is also, just before we finish up the video, top NA players in the VCT by ACS pre-Astra nerf. Penny, Trent right up here as well. Some of the players we talked about earlier today. No one on here, of course, as you guys can see, from 100 Thieves, which are no real surprise at the end of the day, but it just goes to show that maybe what Sinatraa was saying is correct. They didn't really have any players that actually have incredible star potential, as these guys very much do have. And just to finish up with this from Zelta as well, I believe you might have stolen it from Infamous, but we're going to throw it up regardless. Red or blue pill here in Valorant. This to me is actually quite challenging. I think this is quite well balanced, because I think I prefer Ascent and Haven to all of these maps on the right-hand side. So like all the blue pill maps, like a Bind, a Breeze, and Split, I prefer Ascent and Haven, I think, to all of these 3. But Icebox is just so frustrating that it brings down the pecking order, to be honest. Then again, with the new Icebox changes, I think that I might still take the blue pill regardless. I really like Bind, really frustrates me, so I don't really mind between these kind of bottom ones. Probably take the red pill at the end of the day, but intrigued to your perspective in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit the like button, tell the YouTube god this is a good video, and as like you should see it as well, and help grow the competitive Valorant community. Thank you for watching as always, take care, and I will see you next time.
From short, so I believe this should get Victor. But Victor goes short, so he gets right by it.
Oh, they must be aware of the cross.
Goodness. And the fast lane to get into the corner. Put the seed of doubt in Penny's mind.
Holy.
He's
fast, man.
The value's gone.
Motherfucker's already at C.
He just wasted so much utility.
He's actually playing it so well, though.
Could still be in long.
Oh my god!
He's still the first player in Garage.
He's playing it so well, I swear.
Whippy is in a good spot here.
Oh my god, he's causing havoc.
On the entry, their trade comes through. They haven't conceded.
Dude, he's doing so good. He's doing so good.
We'll get Optic going straight back towards A, where